Charles Blow of the New York Times wrote a controversial article about Donald Trump and his supporters. And I want to give you the heart of it here, and then we'll break it down. So he said the following: compassionate conservatism is dead. Trump and his band of backward-thinking devotees killed it. Trump is rushing headlong into Muslim bans and mass deportations, wall building, and Obamacare dismantling. Indeed, it feels like the campaign promises Trump is keeping have to do with cruelty, and those he's flip-flopping on have to do with character. This is why I have no patience for liberal talk of reaching out to Trump voters. There is no more a compromise point with those who accept, promote, and defend bigotry, misogyny, and xenophobia than there is a designation of almost pregnant. Trump is a cancer on this country, and resistance is the remedy. The Trump phenomenon is devoid of compassion, and we must be closed to compromise. Okay, so I have a lot to say about this. Part of what he's saying is 100% incorrect, but part of what he's saying is 100% correct. So let me explain. When he talks about we should be closed to compromise and you're either with us or against us, or you're with Trump or against Trump, it's like being almost pregnant, so you have to pick a side. On that front, if he's talking about the specific policies he laid out, then he's right. So in other words, if he's talking about the Muslim ban, yeah, you're with us or against us. So there was for those of you who don't know the details of it, 7 Muslim majority nations, they said all immigrants and refugees from those countries, shut down, you're not coming here. We're not even considering you. Then they tweaked it a little bit recently because it failed multiple legal tests. And remember, Rudy Giuliani said on Fox News, he let it slip. He probably shouldn't have. He was probably regretting it after. He said, yeah, Trump called me and asked, how can I legally do a Muslim ban? So to look at that policy and do apologetics for it and say, oh, well, maybe. No, I'm not having that conversation. On this front, there's no compromise. We shouldn't give an inch on the policies that are bigoted and stupid. Mass deportations is another. Now, Charles Blow, of course, conveniently leaves out that there was a record number of deportations under Obama. So Obama was no angel on this front. And unlike him, we're consistent. We've been against the mass deportations when it was under Obama. And now that Trump is actually even making it worse, so we're going to get to a story on that later, we're against that too. But no, I agree with him. There's no, hey, maybe nuance and a fine-tooth comb is needed when discussing these specific policies. No, on the policies he laid out here, like he says, bigotry, defending bigoted policies, xenophobia and stuff. So if one of his next moves is, as I expect it will be, trying to implement some sort of nationwide stop and frisk program, there is no middle ground there. Stop and frisk has over a 90% failure rate. It overwhelmingly cracks down on people of color, and again, the failure rate is through the roof. So all you're doing is taking away the Fourth Amendment rights of people who are just going about their lives, and you're not even getting anything out of it. And by the way, even if you did get stuff out of it, it would still violate their Fourth Amendment rights. You have a protection from unreasonable search and seizure. For law enforcement officials to say, solely based on the color of your skin, I'm going to stop you in the street and just do random searches of you, that's crazy. Trump repeatedly said that he wanted to do stop and frisk and do a nationwide stop and frisk program. So on policies like that, I think all liberals and progressives, and honestly, even like establishment Democrats agree. We're not giving an inch on that. I don't want to hear it. No, obstruction is the answer. There will be no compromise. Here's where Charles Blow is wrong, though. He's wrong because he's conflating Trump's bigoted policies with all of Trump's supporters. See, if you actually go to the data and you look at what happened in the last election, Donald Trump flipped what was considered the Democratic firewall. In fact, it was considered the Democratic firewall so strongly that Hillary Clinton didn't even step foot in some of the states that she needed to step foot in, like Wisconsin, for example. They just assumed, the Democrats assumed, like, what do you mean? Obviously we're going to win those states. Obama won them twice, and his Democratic stronghold. Turns out it wasn't a Democratic stronghold because Hillary lost working-class white voters from former factory towns, depressed factory towns, who had all their jobs shipped overseas. And you can see why. She's Hillary NAFTA TPP Rodham Clinton. So people looked at her and they said, I don't think she's for me. I think she's a corrupt representative of the establishment. I think she wants to do business as usual and keep the status quo as it is. And she took all that money from Goldman Sachs to give a few speeches. We're not stupid. You're not going to pull the wool over our eyes. So a lot of people who voted for Obama, even people who voted for Obama twice, flipped and went to Trump. Now, Trump didn't win those states by that many votes cumulatively. That's a hard word to say. So that means that it was just a little change in a different direction could have swung the election. But the thing is, those voters said, okay, you know what? I'm going to overlook Donald Trump's horrific xenophobia and bigotry, and I don't agree with it. I don't. But I think this guy's going to keep my job here, or I think he's going to bring back jobs. And I know Hillary Clinton is not going to do those things. So, in other words, you're painting all Trump supporters with a broad brush. Are there real deplorables who support Donald Trump? Of course. I don't think anybody's denying that, or if they do deny that, they're just a silly person. I mean, for fuck's sake, David Duke was doing cartwheels in support of Donald Trump. Is he a deplorable? Hell yeah, he's a deplorable. There are people who, the whole reason they supported him was, hey, he said he wants to do nationwide stop and frisk and crack down on black communities. You know, hey, he said he wants to deport all undocumented immigrants and he called Mexicans rapists. I assume some are good people, he said. Hey, he said he wants to do Muslim ban. It's still up on his goddamn website. The text of it, and he says a complete and total shutdown of Muslims coming to America. So there were people who looked at it and said, because of those things, I'm going to vote for him. Those are the deplorables, and those people are too far gone, and there will be no compromise with those assholes. But when Trump said, as he did repeatedly in the campaign, hey, I'm not going to cut Social Security, I'm not going to cut Medicare. Hey, I'm going to block TPP. By the way, he actually came through on that promise, and we should all give him credit for that. When he says, we're not going to nation build. Sorry, but we're done with that. Now, he contradicted himself on that one a million times, as he did on almost every issue. But when he says economically populist things, is there room for compromise there? You bet your ass there's room for compromise there. And that's why Charles Blow is wrong. This reminds me of the Jamel Bowie article that came out just after the election, where Jamel Bowie argued, if you decide, and he was arguing specifically against Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, because Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders had repeatedly made the point, we're not going to give an inch on the bigotry and the xenophobia and the backwards policies, but we will work with him on infrastructure, we will work with him on trade policy, we will work with him on Social Security and Medicare if he doesn't want to cut them. So Jamel Bowie said, no. If you work with him on those things, well then you're just, that's a stealth rationalization and normalization of all the bigoted shit he says. That's the definition of cutting off your nose to spite your face. That's what Jamel Bowie's asked for. When you agree with him, don't agree with him, because if you agree with him and work with him on the stuff that you agree with him and want to work with him on, you're a closet white supremacist. I mean, by that logic, the last minimum wage increase we got was under George W. Bush. It went from like $5.15 an hour to $7.25 an hour. By this logic, all the Democrats should have said, you know what, I oppose it. And you want to know why I oppose it? The Iraq War. Working with George Bush on any issue is legitimizing the Iraq War. So I'm not going to vote for this minimum wage increase. Well, then you're an idiot if you do that. By the same token, you're an idiot if you say, Trump actually wants to protect Social Security, Medicare. It's still an open question if he's going to do that. He's probably not going to do that. But if he were to do that, and you say, well, now I'm in favor of cutting Medicare and Social Security. Now I'm not in favor of an infrastructure bill. Well, then you're a dunce. Then you're a dunce. That's what we call blind obstruction. And that's stupid. Blind obstruction makes no sense. You should obstruct when the policy in question demands obstruction, but you should also hold him accountable. And holding him accountable means, oh, those few times you said those good things, we're going to make sure we go out there like Bernie did. He went on the floor of the Senate, had cue cards with Donald Trump's tweets on it. And he said, look, you said this. Are you calling yourself a liar? Is that what you're doing? Are you going to do this or are you not going to do this? So you have to come out to the American people and say, look, I'm full of shit, or you have to follow through on what you said here. That's how you do it. So Charles Blow, I think he's wrong because he's making the argument, no compromise. You're with us or against us on every issue, full stop. Well, okay, then you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're cutting off your nose to spite your face, and you're being unreasonable. And by the way, prepare to lose more. I think that's the most important point. Like, do you not get it? If the Democrats don't change their tune and elect people who are actually populist, well, then we're going to keep having elections where, in the presidential example, we keep winning the popular vote but losing the Electoral College. Because you're not going to flip all the people in the Rust Belt, in the depressed factory towns, by saying, you know what, I'm still not in favor of economic populism and keeping your jobs here and protectionism and rebuilding our infrastructure. I'm just going to keep saying you're racist and you're bigoted. Well, good luck. Let me know how that works out for you. You're going to keep losing. So the answer is to oppose when you need to oppose, obstruct when you need to obstruct, which, to be clear, is most issues. But on the few issues where he's making a populist argument, you need to out-populist him. Not, all of a sudden go to the other direction and say, now I'm against populism, because then you look like an idiot.